Morning. On behalf of the Cavalry Roundtable Fraternity, I welcome you all to our monthly podcast focused on India's strategic future in conflict technologies and R&D challenges. In this area, your insights as participants and viewers are crucial. Warfare is shifting from force-on-force battles to system-on-system contests. UAVs, artificial intelligence-enabled decision systems, quantum computing, cyber and space assets are transforming the strategic landscape, underscoring the importance of information and technology for India's defense future and inspiring a sense of purpose in adaptation. Recent conflicts, from Ukraine to the Red Sea, demonstrate how autonomous systems, ISR dominance, and data fusion are influencing outcomes before conventional engagement, emphasizing India's urgent need to adapt. India has operational experience. What we must now build is integrated R&D momentum, linking services, DRDO, academia, startups, and industry to ensure technological superiority is designed and not imported. To further delve into this, we have two distinguished speakers to address the day's topic. Lieutenant General Pannu, PVSM, AVSM, VSM, and he holds a PhD degree, will speak on Beyond the Battlefield, Quantum Space and Web Kill Chains, implications for India's warfighting doctrine. It's an honor to introduce General Pannu, former Deputy Chief of Integrated Defense Staff Operations, and a leader who has shaped India's multi-domain military architecture. Commissioned into the Maratha Light Regiment, he has held several command appointments, including formations on the line of control and line of actual control. For those not familiar, these are operational commands against our adversary on the west and north. At the apex level, he was responsible for tri-service doctrine, net assessments, and operational directives. Critically, he saw the establishment of the Defense Space Agency, the Defense Cyber Agency, and Armed Forces Special Operations Division, institutions central to India's future warfighting construct. He holds a PhD on defense indigenization and a passionate advocate of technology-driven doctrine. General Pannu brings strategic clarity to the implications of quantum cyber and space convergence for India's military future. Our second speaker for the day is General Brad, who will speak on operationalizing UAVs and AI in multi-domain warfare. We are privileged to welcome General Brad, a distinguished technologist who has consistently driven operational modernization. With 4 decades of service across J&K, the Northeast, high-altitude sectors, and UN missions, he combines field credibility with doctrinal insight. As Director General of the Armored Corps, he championed projects such as the light tank Zorawar and swarm drones, signaling a shift from heavy platforms to agile networked combat systems. Now a distinguished strategic advisor to IIT Madras Pravartak, he focuses on UAVs forms, AI-enabled ISR, and kill chain dominance, precisely the capabilities that define multi-domain warfare. Together to bring both speakers bring operational authority and technological vision to a subject that will define India's strategic trajectory. I kindly request that General Pannu share his thoughts.
Thank you, Manoj. I would also want to introduce myself as a senior advisor to the Space Industries Association. And in that, I conduct an event. The next one, which we are doing, is on 24th to 26th of February next week, which is called DEFSAT. And part of that, I conduct a space war game. So you spoke about that I should be talking about the quantum technology, system of systems, and web kill chains. So before that, let me build it up for you and slowly. When I was commanding my corps, I realized that there's an armored formation, which is part and parcel of a mountain formation, which is the highest battlefield of the world. Brigadier Salaria was my brigade commander. And then I realized that as traditionally, the tanks were being made to fight on the valley floor. So I went and took Salaria on top of a mountain and I said, I don't want the tanks to fight on the valley floor. I want the tanks to fight on top of a mountain. Now imagine medium tanks being taken on top of a mountain. The reason I did that was that the Chinese had a lighter version of tanks which could climb the hills much faster. And imagine a scenario where our medium tanks are on the valley floor and the Chinese tanks are on top. How would we defend ourselves? So therefore, we did whatever it took, some technical, some skill, and some conceptual changes that we made. So the tanks were taken on top. Imagine T-72 being taken on top with some modifications of skill and standards. And we achieved that. And once we did that, I requested Brigadier Salaria to get a draft SATM sent to the Armored Corps Entrance School, where Praveen Dikshit, at that time, General Praveen Dikshit was the officiating commandant. So from there, when we looked at how the technology in these very challenging areas got to be the central of the war winning strategies, we realize that when the human fails, the technology bails out. When technology fails, it is the human and technology together that will combine. The Chinese at that time were building their entire modern PLA to fight through technology. And they had actually got many elements of technology into war fighting. And we realized that our soldiers are facing technology. Later on, I got an opportunity of raising the cyber and the space agencies. And I realized that non kinetic and non contact battles are extremely important because you will only go to contact in case the soldiers are trying to push you on the battlefield physically. But the ability of a cyber attack or a space warfare is that if these two abilities are snatched away from us, it'll do very, very little for the soldiers and the tankmen to fight on the ground because all your networks, which are slowly getting system of systems and net centric, would be destroyed by the adversary. And that too, when I said that our two adversaries, of course, are in collusive way, coming together strategically, politically, diplomatically, militarily. Now they're also reinforced with technology. Their space technology is now on a switch of a button available to the Western adversary. Their cyber capability is now intrinsic to every equipment that is being fielded in it. So, cyber and space together have become a very important element of warfare, not only in warfare, but also now are central to the comprehensive national power. So, therefore, when you look at the cyber and the space put together, they have become the core element for the national security. Now, what is that we in India are concerned about? What we're concerned about is that most of the high tech equipment is not indigenous, it is imported. Either the complete system is imported or the parts of the system are imported. And when I say parts of the system are imported, the critical parts of the system are imported. So at the end of it, if we have some amount of technology which is our own, but the core of the technology comes from outside, so therefore the supply chain has become one of the biggest concerns because the moment you put your systems on a network, the moment they are operated in a cyber domain or in a space domain, the supply chain infections can actually corrupt the whole system, and without the actual K kill or M kill, this becomes a total kill because the entire system is thrown out of business in warfare. So therefore, over a period of time, we've been talking about how should India prepare itself for autonomous warfare. We need to write doctrines about the autonomous warfare because unless we decide how we got to fight by, say, 2050, which is our way of fighting, the digital battlefields and digital tactical battle areas got to be configured where the Internet of Battle things, which are in the tactical battle area, and Internet of military things, which are supporting the tactical battle area, are the ones which are going to give a digital configuration to the entire war fighting. But the moment we go digital, you've got to make sure that there are bandwidths. So therefore, 5G, 6G, 7G, whatever is going to unfold is going to give zero latency, bandwidth, immediate speed, and many, many millions of artifacts which are going to be networked together on a click of a button. General Brad will obviously, he's been asked to speak on the drones. But the fact of the matter is that if you are looking at boots on ground to bots on ground, there is a huge shift. So, therefore, from the analogous battlefield, we first switch over to the digital battlefield. From digital battlefield, we go on to the autonomous battlefield. And unless we configure ourselves for the autonomous battlefield, we are not going to be training and skilling ourselves to ultimately hand over an entire system to a robo over a period of time, unless the teaming is done properly. So, therefore, man machine teaming is extremely important. Second point that I want to make is that the moment you're going autonomous, data becomes very big uh, and a complex subject. Yesterday, I was sitting with a company which says it is equivalent to Palantir, which is a company called Sarvanan. They were making some presentations to the defense secretary and to Mehti, and I was sitting in that meeting. And when they asked for data, well, somebody from the military said, we can't share our data. So I had to explain to them what is data. From the standpoint of import, if you have to import an autonomous system, and I'm giving an example here that um, in a trip to United States where we were sitting and discussing how the two countries should cooperate on defense, they were offering autonomous systems. And when I said, how do you handle data? He says, we are going to give you an empty vessel. You are going to program it. We are going to give you only a capability. You got to give the enablement to your capability. So therefore, what it meant was that we will get a empty vessel, which we have to fill ourselves with our own data, configure the whole thing to our own liking. So ultimately, you find if you go over a period of time to say, we have some American system, which will be networked together through the arrangements of Link 16 or Comcasa, then you go and buy a French equipment, then you go and buy a Russian equipment, or you have a legacy Russian equipment, then you have some indigenous system. If you have to fight a autonomous or a network centric or a system of system battle, you've got to make sure that all these artifacts are put together in a trust architecture, which is entirely your own without the supply chain integrity, which is questionable. Then there is a huge problem because there will be more technology clutter than technology collaboration or technology as one mosaic. So therefore, ultimately, when you start looking at security, there are two main issues of security. One is that the supply chain infection coming from the semiconductor that we don't manufacture. I'll give you examples of Tangushka or even go K9 Vajra. You start looking at what was the Tangushka meant to be doing and what it is doing today is, of course, known to us. But is it functional or is it functional to the point that it is supposed to be functional? The answer is no, because number of chips and number of circuits which were programmed or provided to us have actually either gone bad or they have become outdated and there are no programs upgrades available with us. And who's supposed to upgrade? Because when you do procurement, these kind of long term arrangements either are not made, or if they are made, they are so expensive that we don't then decide to buy certain equipment only to bring it down to the budgets. Ultimately, the number of the performance parameters of equipment which when you decided to buy it, and ultimately the subsystems which you decided not to buy because they're very, very expensive, or the system upgrades which would continuously be a big source of expenditure. If you don't take and you don't indigenize, you're not going to have the full functioning of the imported equipment. You will only have half or one fourth or three fourth of whatever you can put there, because ultimately the whole system is not yours. So, what is data? So I then had to give a very rudimentary example of data that when you join NDA or a person gets recruited into the army, they're asked to fill up a form. In that form, you disclose your identity, your height, weight, chest, medical, all this. I said that is data. So it means if the data has been asked in a format, the companies must ask for that data in a format which the military will be able to give. In the tactical battle area, most of the data doesn't have to be applied for strategic purpose. So there's a lot of localized data which is required. There's a lot of data which is required only to run the equipment on cyber physical to make it autonomous. So therefore, we should not worry about data. We worry about data because we do not understand data. We say data is new oil. Data, who controls the data controls the battlefield. Anybody who controls the data can control humanity. Yes, but the point is, we must understand that certain data is extremely important if you have to go for autonomous warfare, and that data we must configure. And the requirement of the industry should be looked at not from the privacy point of view, from the enablement point of view. The next point is when you do indigenization. Now you want to do Atmanirbharta. Atmanirbharta cannot be reactive. It cannot be that you fight a war, lose some portion, learn the lessons, and then very quickly go to the industry and put something together in the very short term. I think their short term and long term got to be independent. You must decide over a period of time how do you want to fight a battle and how you design your own battle. Now, designing your own battle is only possible if you configure something like a mosaic warfare. In mosaic warfare, you have a digital tactical battle area which has got all the artifacts in it, and all the artifacts and the plan comes together, which they bring meshed intelligence and meshed operations to a point where a commander on ground, who's the tactical commander, a brigade commander or a div commander, can configure the battlefield on a console. So therefore, the digital twins got to be created. The digital twin is that what you have on the console and what you have actually on ground. And these digital twins got to work not in the manner that first you configure on ground and then you configure on your console. I think in mosaic warfare, first you got to build a mosaic on your console. You have to make a synthetic battlefield. You have to train the synthetic battlefield so that your engines are trained, and you, over a period of time, through wargaming and through simulation, you train the engines in such a way so that they are into reinforced learning. And reinforced learning is also seen as a reactive learning. Reactive learning is that you establish over a period of time and cause and effect. If every time you're punching somebody on the nose and that man always punches back on your nose, that establishes a cause and effect. But you are punching on the nose and sometimes he hits your chest, sometimes swings around with the leg, sometimes hits your groin. It means now the engines got to be trained that on one action there can be 24 reactions, or maybe there are reactions which are beyond. So therefore those simulation exercises over a period of time will be able to train our engines through the reinforced learning. Now, how do we make sure that one tactical battle area gets connected with another tactical battle area? And these small pebbles then got to be joined together to get the entire frontage of the country, that is the borders of the country, together into one mosaic, not only on the borders, but also in the IOMT, where the common operating picture, all the logistic support, procurement, casualty evacuation, movement of convoys, and reinforcement, big convoys moving formations from one place to another, strategic sidestepping is happening. All that is not in the tactical battle area, but in support of the tactical battle area, becomes the element of Internet of battle military things. How are we going to make sure that you make from a kill chain to kill web? The point is, the human mind has to work on a kill chain. And then the bots will start making a kill web out of the probabilities that you assign to it of a particular thing happening in a particular way once you plan it. And then the engines will decide the course on what equipment to use, when to use, how much to use. If you're going to put the factors, if economy is your factor, so you want to have a battle which is less cost effective, or sorry, which is less costly. But a country like America may not even put cost to it because they don't care. They have all the money. For them, destruction, annihilation can be the main factor where they'll configure in their mosaic. Whereas in India, you say, listen, I want to fight a war, but I don't want to run my economy down for another 25, 30 years. I don't want to become ultimately a slave. So you will put cost factor to it. So the models will start throwing up which is the cheapest way to do it. If there is a tank which can fire, why fire a missile? If missile can ground missile can fire, then why have a Prithvi fired or a bigger missile fire? Why have a BrahMos fire? So therefore, all the probabilities then are put into the system where the web kill chains will react in a particular manner, which will ultimately transfer the mind of the commander to a distributed decision making. It means if the strategic commander has got an intent very clearly stated, then it means that intent becomes permanent in nature where the terms of reference are configured in the mosaic. It means now within the terms of reference, the subordinative commander is now completely having a elbow space and the initiative under which conditions he can fight his own battle. So he doesn't need to be interfered with from the top commander. Even if there's a communication breakdown to the the flanking formation or to the higher formation, the configuration of a digital autonomous battlefield will continue to function even when you are not in communication because you're on a local loop, and local loops can be built over fiber cable or through local hotspots. So therefore, there are many ways that through a ordinary QR code, a drone can come onto your system, and once you are switched off, then the QR code is now reconfigured to go into any other tactical battle area because the drones can be moved from one tactical battle area to another if they are strategic or operational in nature. Whereas the tactical or local battalion level logistic support or in the tactical battle area only to influence the battalion, they don't have to fly anywhere else, so they're permanently wedded to the battalion configuration. So therefore, ultimately what I'm talking about is that you got to make sure that the terrestrial and the non-terrestrial elements got to be brought on one web. It means you need to have a persistent ISR. When you talk about ISR and you've got to build the whole configuration into the command and control and distributed command and control, it comes to C5 I3 star 2 configuration. And I will explain that C5 obviously is C4 plus cyber, and I2 plus interoperability becomes I3. And then star 2 is surveillance, target acquisition, robotics, and reconnaissance because a lot of reconnaissance will get autonomous. Tip and Q, for example, can be done through artificial intelligence that over a period of time, you don't have to continue to do reconnaissance. The tip and Q will constantly, straight away bring you into the surveillance mode, that these are the areas you got to do surveillance, and from surveillance mode it will come to the implementation through intelligence. So therefore the meshed intelligence will then make a good sense where a tactical operational commander will be able to build his own vision. So it means design your own battle. He can design his own battle within the tactical battle area under the overall terms of reference given by the commander. So I stop here. And what is very important is that in technology, you have to go full left because you've got to make sure it is secure by design. And when you're talking about secure by design, you've got to make sure which is the weakest point in the link. And that weakest link has to be made sure that it is hardened. And unfortunately, a lot of patches will come. We don't know how to send a patch up into the satellite when the satellite is, say, nearing 10 to 12, 15 years old. How do you now reconfigure a satellite which is already on the fly in the orbit? It means what is important is that your Earth station and satellite operation centers got to be functioned in a manner that all the patch upgrades comes there, which are trustworthy, but most of it must be built by our own. And I'm very happy to know that the EME today is doing a lot of work to bring local technology, which is not only indigenous, but it is owned by the army. So I stop here and I will take questions a little later. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. You have covered a vast canvas, starting from the mountains of eastern Ladakh to networked terrestrial, non-terrestrial warfare capabilities that we all must develop, and also have the bandwidth to actually accommodate multiple platforms which can work without latency and be on the go from the moment we step in. We will take on questions a little later. I will ask and request General Berard now to share his views and guide us further.
Thank you, sir. It's an honor and privilege to be on this platform. I have got some slides, so I'll just share them. My slides are visible, sir?
They're visible.
Okay, the topic given to me is platform to kill chains, operationalizing UAVs, AI, and MDO warfare. So actually, it contains four topics which are subjects in itself: MDO, artificial intelligence, net sensitivity, and autonomous systems. So what I'll do is I'll try and sequence them and highlight how they are all interconnected. In any case, all technology is interconnected, and try and explain and clarify, because if the operational concepts and thought is not simplified, the execution as it is extremely difficult, because the technical guys who have to code or who have to make your AI models, and if they have to be indigenous, they have to be very clear what we want from this technological shift which is taking place. So I'll try and give you that in the time allotted. Uh, so I'll start with MDO. I have written few questions here, which in my view are slightly mixed up in various talks and this thing. So, is it evolved disruptive? Sometimes we talk of MDO as a whole of nation and this thing. So, I think I'll be able to clarify this as we go along. So, for that purpose, I have charted the progress of modernization of these three countries of concern, if I may say. So, US, of course, has led the battle of modernization. And if you see from the airland battle to full spectrum ops, that was the global war on terror, where they kind of deviated, but they again came back to unified land ops. But the MDO is not something which is suddenly disruptive. It has evolved from their 80s technological shifts which has taken place. And in 2018, actually, they firmly came in with certain documents. But their doctrine, which defines MDO, is 3-0 October 22, and they plan to be a MDO force by 2028. And likewise, China has been following US from 80s, and despite the global war on terror, China was focused on building its own capability right all along, and they have followed. And in fact, in certain areas now, they are matching or even crossing them. Of course, Pakistan, we are well aware. So, the point which I want to highlight by this slide is that this is something which is built up of over 30, 40 years, and we have a lot of catching up to do. And everything has to be indigenous, as has been highlighted by General Pannu also. And these red markers, we are well aware they happened. And I think if you can see that the red markers are also related to how technologically capable you are or capable as a force. So I think the future AI will also predict the next action which is going to happen when and where. So the multi-domain operation, this is straight a screenshot from their doctrine FM3-0. Actually, maybe some people may not be aware, it is an army-driven doctrine. And it is by the US Army Training Doctrine Command. Because, which is a natural thing, that the Army needs MDO more than Air Force and Navy. Because Air Force and Navy, because I think I feel that the understanding is opposite with us. Navy and Air Force in themselves are self-contained for, net centricity or sharing information, and this is the Army, which is so vast and varied. So that's why it is the Army command which started this MDO thought, and they have spelled out, and it is definitely the MDO. The domains are totally military, as I said. It is not beyond the military. So why MDO? I think these points are well known to the audience, which is there, which is very learned. But I want to highlight by this red and blue, which I have written. You see, modern conflicts are simultaneous. This all is known escalation control because of cyberspace. We can do physical borders. We have now non-kinetic systems. We have improved. This red and blue, I am highlighting that blue is what is our possibly doctrine or concept, but red is technology. What I want to highlight is MDO cannot be executed if we don't have certain technological capabilities. We can do if you can call that an MDO, let's take the point of deterrence, a very sharp brigade commander on the LC, LSC, because he knows the ground, he will have situation awareness, he will have decision-making speed, and he'll counter the diverse threats. But we are talking of a nation as a whole. We definitely can't do it with the vast variety of now technological changes which are taking place, data and the weapon systems. So definitely, if you want to execute MDO, you have to have certain I'll come to that. So developing a framework for MDO, these domains are generally spoken and written. But in my view, and I think which is possibly the right view also, the MDO is not land, air, maritime, or this. MDO is execution of the functions which are written across the domains. So if you're able to execute an ISR and an intelligence operation across all these domains, that is cross synergy. It will develop cross synergy and cross domain operations. Now, you may not like to club all these domains across the whole of your sector or whole of your country. We may club land, air, cyber, this thing, let's say, in some, let's say, southern part of the desert or some plains region, or maybe the eastern Ladakh, or maybe the eastern sector, some portion. So that can be limited so that we execute a controlled kind of an MDO. But MDO can only be if we are able to execute our various functions, whether it's cyber warfare, information warfare, ISR, or other things which I've written here. I've written an article. So in that article, I've tried to even explain. It is coming out in St. Joe's, I think, this month issue. I've tried to explain that MDO is equal to integration of all functions across all domains. And what you need to integrate is broadly mentioned, let's say ISR, electronic warfare, cyber. So it continues space and this thing. So all this cannot be done if you don't have technology. So I'll come to that slowly. So this is another topic which is spoken quite often, a platform we need to shift. So, it's generally understood that tanks are a platform, so are some bigger things. But in my view, anything which is not connected to the net is a platform. It can be a drone, it can be a satellite system, it can be a radar, it can be aircraft, it can be anything. Net centric means everything which is connected. So if I have to give you an example, you can have, let's say, the iPhone, I don't know, 17 or whatever the latest, but if it doesn't have Wi-Fi, it is just a phone. So whether it is infantry, whether it is armored AD or anybody who is not connected to the net is a platform. It is not only the tanks are the platform. So therefore, if tanks were to be connected to the platform, that is the shift. I think we already had the topic on that. General Chet covered that. It has to be a network kind of a thing where everything gets connected. And when you are connected, then the combat ratios don't matter, because you're not fighting 10 tanks or 10 tanks versus 10 or 10 RT guns or 3 battalions versus 3 battalions, because the cumulative effect of a net centric force is much higher than the combat ratios on which we generally have been working on. So that is the point which I thought I will explain, and for purpose of simplifying the thing, because there may be some civilian audience also. It's like, if you wanted to increase the financial inclusion in the country, you could have increased the number of banks and increase the number of ATMs. You can put a bank in every village, which actually is not possible. But let's say, but that is cost and not possible. That is increasing the tanks. But what we did, we made a UPI system. So that is the understanding or the conceptual shift which is required in warfare also. So I had long back, I was part of a net-centric study. As a colonel, I had written on how net-centric to be done. And that is the time actually China was also doing certain things. So I was following them. So my thesis was also on that. So anyway, because we were besieged by, I think, problems in the north and the JNK. But notwithstanding, I think a lot of things are happening. Now I'll try and go slightly on a technical side. Being from IIT Madras, I have to speak on some technological slides also. So this has been spoken, but here I just want to highlight in the tech domain, the networks are across the line. This side of the network, you need your own chip, your own operating system, your database, and your language models. Now, since I'm on this platform, everything on this is happening. How fast and all, I'll not comment, but chip definitely you've seen this been announced. In fact, the director got the Padam Shri for that. Operating system is happening where the place I'm. There is a Shakti database, which is replacement to Oracle. We are trying to deploy it. It's already deployed in banks. And AIML, I'll just talk about it. As far as networks are concerned, you have to have an operational own support system because it's something like your management systems. If it is foreign, they may say data centers are here, it doesn't matter. It has to be your own. And there are, of course, some company like Tejas and all which have made it. So, and of course, the satellite comes in and the space comes in, which General Panu's already talked. Below is a link on which I have explained article on how network security is more important because we secure computers, but we don't secure networks. Now, this again is a AI stack model. I'll just explain a lot of things are written, but basically to highlight the first three columns which are in blue are your foundational layers. And your yellow thing is your products layer. And then, of course, is the governance, which controls everything as far as AI is concerned. Now, the problem which we as a country or the West is trying to say that they will give you the foundational model. So if you take their foundational model, then all the data also will be theirs. So that is the point which I mentioned somewhere in one of the my posts that this foundational models have to be ours. And I talked about Sarvam. Sarvam got an office just opposite us. There are other people. There's a lot of capability, but they all need guidance and pushing that, and of course the support because all these are in the civil domain. And the products layer is what. So again, if I have to explain, it is something like the UPI, the Paytm and Google is the products layer. So if you make Paytm and Google, which is riding on something which is not yours, then definitely that Google Paytm can easily be taken down. And if it is a defense kind of a thing, then all your AI models have less of this thing. So below I have written the indic models. This is where the thing is coming in. Like I'm going back and back to UPI because one of the professor here is was involved in that. Uh, SLM's customized data warehouse. You see, again in AI models, I'm not a scientist by any means, but from what I hear or what they say, like we bypassed, had we competed with MasterCard and Visa, we would have never competed because they are huge. We made the UPI. Same will happen with AI models. Only thing is we need some effort and luck. Okay, now I have started with MDO. Now I have explained the technological stack. Now let me get back to MDO. So I have explained, if you see on top, the two models. This was the technical stack. This was the AI architecture. Now this net centricities and the functional application, which I explained in MDO. This is being made by academia, industry, and so many startups. So is this, which is happening. But this we have to make. We means the military. This is where I find is the area of concern that unless you do this and this, because or you have people like who can explain to the startups there how to go about this. Things are happening, but I'm saying this is where we need to focus. And I'll go to the next slide because unless until you have your own stack, your own architecture, own networks and own application, you can enable MDO. But I will connect here with theaterization. Theaterization will give you, let's say this is your some sector, will give everything, the even the space aircraft under the command authority of the theater commander. But how will they interact? They will interact with this top thing. So if we execute theaterization, it will not be as effective unless we have MDO. So both have to progress together. So again, as I said, this article, maybe some light will be thrown in this article. Now coming to the last part of the autonomous system, is the UAV swarms and the OODA loop. You see, I have put the UAV in this OODA loop, the UAV command and control and this thing. Now, why are the drones very successful? Because they compress or finish the OODA loop within seconds. They have the observe capability, they have the orientation capability, and they have the act capability. Decide, of course, is the man and man teaming. But I can also tell you that since a lot of things were written about tanks, and I was an operational, you can say, the DIP commander when we did mobilize, and I had the best of the air assets, these male hail with me, and they were not networked. And I can tell you, 20 by 20 kilometer area, we tried our level best to find tanks. We couldn't. So the point which I made earlier also, unless your drones are also networked to a surveillance grid and they have a background information, no drone can kill a tank. All the tanks which have been killed in Ukraine were killed by the net-centric warfare which the drone presented to the tanks. If the tanks were also part of the net-centric warfare, in fact, if a tank knows where the drone is coming, 50% chance it will not get killed with no counter systems also. So the point here which I'm trying to make is it compresses the OODA loop, provides situational awareness, and it creates a sensor to shooter link. So in a short kind of a thing, it gives you that MDO effect. So that's why you can say that if we have a good network of drones, it is giving you, if the links are secure, and so the network is secure, your ISR is secure, so it can give you a limited MDO effect to the commanders. So that is why they are necessary and they have a good job, but there's a lot of integration and compatibility issues that I will highlight. Okay, this is the project which was executed as DG Armored Corps. Is the video visible, sir?
It is visible.
So these drones, we had a demonstration. So, AI targeting, and, you give an area for scanning, and they have a data library where they are compared. And you can send your kamikaze drone. So this video is just, I think, has been shown earlier, but I want to highlight that within the same cycle, you can complete your OODA loop. And this, of course, there is a man on the loop. And this place is where General Panu was talking. So this guy can, create us. And of course, you can, if you have swarm drones, you can create a maneuver arm. You can do so many of the tactical options which you have. So we didn't actually, we threw something just for the purpose of this. But the main problem which is occurring here also, that the most important part of the drone or the swarm system is your flight control out. There is only one company which I know which has indigenized this. Otherwise, again, it's foreign stuff. So again, we need people who can bring in these flight. A lot of youngsters are making it. I know of them. But if you have your own flight controller, then all this 30, 40 varieties of drone can be replaced. It's like a software with a little bit of hardware change where any drone may be bought from anywhere, can all be put under a one group, and it can be put as a type of a swarm which I've shown on the right side, which is centralized swarm or distributed swarm or whichever way you want to do it. But and I think in the recent operations, the problem was they couldn't work in GPS denied and EW. Now that you have to have frequency hopping on these command links. So counter denial and AI strategy. I'm just going by the headings which were given to me, I think, by Colonel Bedi and Colonel Chan. So as DG Armored Corps, now that swarm drone was 2021. So it is not something which is recent. Similarly, I was GOC Dakshin Bharat later, but this was in 2021 where upgraded the NSVT into detection, and Bhargavastra, which was started, now it went to AD, was there. Rest four things are happening. They're happening around where you have, AIML, Optica, and many other things are happening, and then future is all this which is happening. So drones will only survive if they have, electronic warfare and radar detection or something like adaptive camouflage or something like that happening. Otherwise, it is that chicken and egg who becomes better. Initially, yes, they did have better of things, but not now. I though not given to me, but everything has to be executed as I said. The explanation has to be simple. You have to create an ecosystem for making this. Otherwise, we'll be buying things from elsewhere, which of course is totally detrimental. So we have to execute everything in a project management mode. The procurement system looks at equipment. Now, none of the things I think which I've spoken is a equipment or a procurement. It is a system. The systems have to be researched, developed, and it involves data. And the user has to be very much part of it. And digital twins was spoken about. So there was a IPMA conference which we attended. So all the corporates all across are doing things 10x faster because they have adopted modern techniques. So we need this kind of a thing to execute. And companies like Adronil, Palantir, and all, they were given these mission mode projects. There was no procurement by US or even China. They just gave the fund and said you have to execute. This is a thing, and a timeline was laid down. So I come to something, of course, which I proudly announced. So this Zorava was, I can say, a project management thing in which I kind of was also guiding them, was also telling them, was taking ownership, and getting involved directly with the people who are the scientists at the L&D and other places. So this is something, and about tanks, future warfare, one has written a policy brief. I think that's understood. We have General Pannu, infantry and armor are required for capture and defense of land, which is a non-negotiable thing, especially in our regard. So I think that's a thing which is closed. I was given a heading: lessons from recent conflicts. I think those lessons of Ukraine, those minor, I feel the larger lessons should be understood. If we have all this, we can do anything because those are tactical level. Drones are there or not there. We need to have a net centricity because if you are net centric, it doesn't matter because every armed service is required as far net centricity is concerned, which is well understood. Now, signals are possibly the most wanted or sought term in non-kinetic domain. Building tech capability, this may be part of a strategy or something that we need to execute MDO by something. And I just written another examples for similar. You see, people said it's like something they say earlier capabilities are not going anywhere. They are all these things which you are talking. I add on. In fact, AI also people comment, but for warfare it's a tool. If people understand how AI and AI is being used all over, at least as of now, it's a tool. So nothing which is there goes away. Other things are add on to it. So like people said, cameras are no longer required because mobile have come out. Yes, cameras have gone, mobiles have come, but as far as photos is concerned, photos, I remember we as youngsters, we used to take one roll and that was also counted for kiski photo khichni hai. But now the number of photos, if there were 36 photos which were clicked in an event, now there are 36,000 which are clicked in an event. So photos have increased. The same as the role. So if we say tank is gone, no, or something else is gone, no. The role has to be understood. Nobody can do that role. So I mean that understanding, and of course, the larger part is command and organizational adaptation and skilling and training. Training because yesterday I was in an event. We need a data center trained skilled people. If you're going to have AI, who will man your data centers? So it's a tough course. In fact, the best of the best are manning this thing. And maneuvering technology is again an article written in the ORF, where we had the operational art of maneuvering the armored forces across the World War, the Rommel and the Montgomerys. But now you need operational commanders who can use and maneuver technology in redefining how you win and win battles and wars. So I think I've finished here, and maybe later we can take up questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Karan. I think you've covered a very wide spectrum from multi-domain net-centric to stretching up beyond to your procurement module. I think one of the important things you really brought out is that our acquisition processes, if they go under project management, they probably execute better because that way everybody is accountable and takes ownership for their part of the process. Uh, I have two questions, which first one, of course, is for General Panu, and the second one, of course, is for you, Karan. I'll first ask General Panu a question which I thought needed to be asked. Recently, so we had the CI summit, which I think is getting over today. And what one is hearing is that a lot of US-based companies are planning to sort of like Google is planning to lay cables to link US and India directly for data. And as you said, data is really not that confidential, but yes, it is very essential for AI. What I really want to understand is that since they are investing so much of money into the AI, what is our ecosystem? Because you're well versed with the technological companies as to where we are at the bottom of this pyramid to actually be able to make it full indigenous so that we are not sort of controlled by various factors, as Karan brought out, that even if you get something from outside, you can probably put it under your software and still control it. So I just thought I would like to hear your thoughts on that, sir.
Thank you, Manoj. As you were asking this question, I was trying to find an equivalent example to use to give an example. We have Indian diaspora all over the world doesn't make them indigenous. So the point is, if the agents work, AI agents can work for anybody. They have no nationality. It is who uses and who secures is the one who owns. You can own a system, but you may not be able to use the system. Somebody else might be able to use it if they get your source code. And if you don't have a source code, you can be actually controlled by somebody else. So you may have paid for something. You may have done the acquisition that we talk about in the typical sense, but still you may not own the system if it is autonomous. So as a result of how, so here I will just throw in one more jargon, a new jargon when you talk about UDA. Now, UDA is okay when you talk about the analog kind of a system. That is the process of decision making. But today, when you do a decision making through the systems which are on AI platforms, so it has become USDA, observe, orient. This is okay. Now you want to decide and act. Before that, you should share and secure. Now, even if you are going to fly a configuration of drones, which you call it swarm drones, how are the drones talking to one another? Are they on the RF connectivity or are they on the digital links, digital optical links? So if it is a digital link or an optical link, then are they onto quantum or QKD, or are they changing their connections with one another where they remain secure within the entire family? So therefore, USDA becomes very important for the defense. Otherwise, if you don't have USDA, you will have most of your drones hijacked by somebody else. And if, mind you, if they are loaded with actuators to arm and trigger the combat element of it, you can know well where we can land up. The second thing is we need to configure something like a golden dome, and golden dome is nothing but number of artifacts which are available to counter the missile systems which are going to be whether these missiles are fired from a platform on ground or from the air or even from the HAPS at some point it will happen. But we should be able to get the good threat assessment, and these threat models are being worked at. The moment you get a right threat model, you have to go for a response mechanism to it. And that is how you will configure everything in a system where your reactions have been loaded through training of these systems so that the right equipment is being used to counter a missile system, because a lot of things from the space is not sovereign. Space is everybody is there. You can't tell somebody don't fly a satellite over my head. But as far as your air dominance is concerned, you can do A2AD, but you can't do A2AD in space. So therefore, that is a very big lesson, that in ISR you can be picked up, you can be triggered, you can be shot. So therefore, you have to make sure that you have to do 360-degree defense. The next point is that when you are being attacked, you should be able, through the threat assessment, see the design of the kill web. And we need to configure the counter kill webs. So what happens is we feel that it is only our job and only our capability that we can design a kill web. But the point is, we need to understand if the kill web is designed for you. How you're being entrapped to take a decision which is not your decision, but it is a force that you've been honey trapped to take a decision. And once you're honey trapped to take a decision, it means you got into a kill chain which you can't recognize. So if a pattern is coming up in your system in which you're being forced to take a decision, which is like your logic, your mind will automatically say that I've been slapped, let me slap back. Sometimes you might have to take a decision which is not conforming to the ordinary logic. So you have to really build a digital logic which is going to 5 steps ahead and not the immediate next step. So these are the things that you need to have the ability to make a counter kill webs.
Thank you very much, sir. Karan, a question for you. You know, everything in your visual presentation and one of the slides I saw that there was a centric cone, which I call the spine, which is got all the data. Now, in our scope of things for defense, I think, data is a very essential part which would sort of synergize everything that we fight with. Uh, are we doing something for creating these military data centers and training people to handle it? Because, as you mentioned, it requires a very skilled set of people to man such centers. And of course, I also understand from some conversations that I've had with some experts that these data centers need huge power consumption. They need a lot of power to actually run them. In fact, in the conversation I had yesterday evening with somebody, they are thinking of using old fighter jet engines to become turbines for such power centers. So, your thoughts?
Okay, thank you, sir. You see, I'll come to your question, but so that, maybe it gives me an opportunity to hopefully explain something. You see, connectivity is important because if you're not connected, in a brigade area, you may get connected, and we all do because of good professional this thing. So connections are important. So that net centricity is important. That is the first thing. When you're connected communication wise, then you can have applications running. It is not necessarily AI. A lot of things, because I'm coming to your question of it needs a lot of data power. A lot of things, if we think simply, can be done by pure automation. Now, automation doesn't require AI because a lot of our procedures, let's say calling for air or some of the rudimentary procedures of calling for logistics, doesn't need AI. It needs automation. And this is the thing, if you speak to the industry or the corporate, they don't go to AI because it costs and they are very cost efficient. And this is something which I learned because I've been attending few things. So we need connection first. Second, we need automation to make applications or the thing which are coded, which doesn't require all that. Then we do need AI. That is, I mean, you have to go for it. But as I tried to explain, our Indian way of doing things. Now, let me, it's not my thing, but let me explain it. Uh, I think small language models have been talked of. Everybody's saying we'll go our Indian way. But there is something like, you see, there is model ops, cost ops, modeling ops. So most of the things when you're making these AI models, can be retrieved from cost ops and modeling ops. That's how you design. So when you do that, there you don't need too much of power. And if we, the amount of experience, I think, which Indian military has, that needs to, I mean, how much of data we have from, maybe our regiments are 100 years old. So if we start cataloging all that data and how we think and how we fight, all that has to get into, this is where the AI will come. And there'll be some data centers which will drive our concepts from Chanakya, and there'll be some data centers which will do our tactical and operational. So that's agree. So all this understanding and planning, obviously, I mean, as an outsider, I can just say, but this is the way that you reduce things. And I can tell you, jet engine, nahi, uh, if the some audience in serving is also listening, please give ITM Pravartak your all the servers which are going to the depot. They require that. They will build, they don't require those heavy GPUs. They're looking for servers on which the same things can be built. It'll be cheaper. And there are some projects with the ministries which are being done, which are confidential, which are being done on a cheaper and a lighter way. So, we have a good way of doing things. It is not jugaad. I think somebody relates the Indian way of doing things. We send things on to Mars. That was not jugaad. Or we do UPI. So I think maybe I've kind of answered your questions.
So it's very great to understand that, it's not the jugaad, but it's a modular and a pragmatic approach to finding solutions to our problems. And I
Yes.
think with you and General Panu both engaged with the industry, academia, and of course the service headquarters, I'm sure things are on course, and we would soon be looking at defining our way of fighting battles and not referring to the FM's 300 or 500 or other so-called glossy terms from the US Army. Uh, General Bedi or General Deepinder, sir, any questions from your side?
I just had a small suggestion to make about the data centers. I think we overestimate the power being used by data centers. See, first of all, what's happening is that data centers are basically moving distributed computing to a centralized computing. So if power is being used by a data center, there are that many computers distributed across which are now moving away from who don't require power. Secondly, data centers are designed with the power where power is available. And data centers always run on mains, not on gensets. So where a data center is designed, there will be multiple sources of power coming in, and only if everything else fails, they go to gensets. So this talk of jet engine is all, I don't think it carries any weight. Normal gensets is what it runs on. I had another question on to Karan. So regarding the, see, today everything is on. We're talking of so much of on everything, all the data flying on the air, with so much of so many devices coming in, where there's so much interference can be created that most of these devices the connection will go. So if it is drones, like you talk of a missile, an American missile that will come in, just confusing all, just killing the signals of all the drones. Are our drones really capable of handling this kind of interference?
So,
That is my.
yes, sir. So, sir, I tried to emphasize on the point which you're alluding in the end by trying to re-emphasize whatever is there doesn't go away. Sir, in my view, the compass remains. We may have GPS, we may have Navic, we have RNA, we may have drones. But our good old way of fighting normal battles, because ultimately in Ukraine also it is finally come to how many artillery rounds are being fired. So, what we are having, which I'm emphasizing again and again, because people are very good at saying this is irrelevant, nothing is irrelevant. Starting from maybe your bayonet and sword also is relevant to whatever we have done till now. This is further moving, adding on. So yes, and we need to find an Indian way of doing things. We had the recent thing. I was still in service, so you see, what you're saying. So we have to have people because I feel now technology is a command function. uh, if the people who are commanding, they should understand how to segregate your frequencies. It can't be left to your CSO or somebody else. They should know your tactical battle plan. They should make a EW plan themselves. They should make all the frequency management themselves. They should know where the things have to happen. And when we make, because no technology can cover for your operational experience, so this has to come on ground and then it gets automated. Oblique, on the next stage we use the AI to further give you the metrics. But if the first layer of understanding technology is not there, then how do you make any system? Because this is the point, because the guys who are here, who I'm dealing with, civilians, they cannot understand unless we explain it very well, and we ourselves are very clear on it.
See,
So your point is right, sir, as I said.
what I was trying to say is that, you see, as far as frequency is concerned, all frequencies are allocated to the different departments globally as per the international frequency plan. So what frequencies the army is using is known to everybody. They are allocated. Now, the point is that firstly, India does not even manufacture a chip like General Panu said. Everything is imported and being integrated in India. I hope that the equipment that we are manufacturing is going to be able to withstand the kind of equipment that are being deployed by the very highly developed countries, where they can suddenly deactivate a lot of equipment. I'm sure it is, but it's just a suggestion that I had.
Nay, just to, because this part I slightly missed out. The You see, I'm just highlighting some of the information which I have and some of the things which may be done. We are in the process of maybe prototype or this thing, but this point which you are saying is very much known, and it has, as I said, in the things which happened recently, it was obvious. So things are being done to counter it. And I can give you a physical example. There are guys who are crossing 6 gigahertz of scanning. Our wideband scanning and jumping is going to better levels, and one of the guys says it's comparable to. But the development time is slightly, as I said, they have been doing for 40 years. We have started not very long back. So it needs all the support, and it is good, sir, that cavalry has thought of having a discussion on. I feel the most important thing which we need to do now. Our tactics, bravery, everything is well known. For the military, I think this is the thing which is the thing which we need to do. Sir.
Thank you.
I just would like to add, sir, that I was listening to a Senate hearing yesterday in which a lady called Lindsay Ford was speaking to one of the Senate House committees, in which what Karan just mentioned, it was for the Indian diaspora that they were talking about, and they were very concerned that with the Pakistan-China collusion, uh, and the Pakistan is being very close to the American military. They were concerned that the Pakistanis would learn these tactics, technologies, and procedures and pass them on to the Chinese.
I saw that.
Thereafter that, it could going to be a lot of mayhem for the Americans. And I think we've had a very wonderful talk this morning, and thank you, General Pandu sir and Karan. You actually covered a very wide spectrum, which only got compressed in about maybe 30 minutes each, but too short a period to talk about it. But nevertheless, it sort of, I think, ignited the minds of those who would hear, and for us, especially, to think about how we all, as contributors to our national defense and security, should work towards. And I think I have some thoughts which I'll come back to individually later. Karan, you and I have discussed it earlier, so it's work in progress. And thank you so much, sir. And I hope we will continue to discuss this in bits and parts to make it more understandable for all of us to bring it to fruition. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
So,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much, sir. Thank you, Pandu sir. Thank you, Bedi sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Bye, sir.
Way to
Bye.
be onto the Cavalry Roundtable. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.